Ms. Dormody, if you'd like to go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Sheila Dormody. I'm the Rhode Island Director of Clean Water Action. We're a national grassroots organization with 1.2 million members across the country. 1,000 of those members live here in Rhode Island. I also serve as the co-chair of the Coalition for Transportation Choices that Chairman Handy was mentioning. And this bill is a top priority of the coalition for this year. As the chairman mentioned, it is time that we take action to restructure how we fund our transportation in Rhode Island. This Coalition for Transportation Choices came together late last year because we all agreed that Rhode Island needs to make a major investment in our transportation choices to achieve a variety of goals. We need to promote economic development, we need to create jobs, we need to protect our air and water quality, and we need to address climate change. This investment in transportation will make progress towards all of those steps. And as we began, as about a dozen organizations, talking with organizations around the state late last year, we quickly grew in numbers and size. We are now a coalition of 35 environmental organizations. You'll see in your packets, this will give you a good list of the types of organizations that are part of the Coalition for Transportation Choices. It includes businesses, labor, health, economic development, senior groups, tourism industry, and as well as environmental organizations who are all looking towards the investments that we need to make in transportation. We're at a crossroads right now. Chairman Handy described well the situation that we're in with our funding. We have crumbling roads and bridges. We have threats to cut RIPTA services on one hand. At the same time, RIPTA ridership is at an all-time high. More and more people are looking for more choices for taking transportation. We have major planning going on in all corners of the state. And we have the governor's blue ribbon panel that came up with a series of recommendations for how we can really address our transportation funding problems in the state. This bill takes two of those recommendations from the governor's blue ribbon panel and looks at ways that we can get out of the problem with the bonding debt that we have previously funded our transportation with, and that this committee has heard about in detail in previous hearings as well. Altogether, the trust fund would generate $67 million. Half of that funding would be designated to go to the Rhode Island Department of Transportation to be looking at our highways and bridges. 35% of it would go to RIPTA funding to address the needs there. And 15% would come back to our cities and towns. And it's not hard to find an example in your own community of a road that is in desperate need of repair. Overall, we've seen that the bill is coming due on transportation right now. Approximately $300 million per year for the next 10 years are the estimates that we've seen. That number seems to only get higher over time. We're going to need to make this investment in addressing all three of these critical needs. Governor Kachiri's budget had a proposal for how to get started on that. Tolls on the Sakonnet Bridge was what his budget looked at as the way that you would get towards funding those needs. We find that this trust fund is a more appropriate solution, and it shares the costs more equitably for residents all across the state. So we urge you to support this bill. We have other experts here who are willing to go more into detail on how the bill works, and I'd especially recommend Jerry Elmer for the Conservation Law Foundation to explain the bill.